there's one other thing that I forgot to make a note, and I just did. But if you go up with just a little bit, so we're
Mm-hmm.
on Kindermaw. We're also in a sci-fi. So when things like Blacker Than Squid Ink up on 37,
Yeah.
that makes me go, well, wait a minute now. What time period are we in? How far in the future? How long has it been since we've been on Earth? Would they really know what a squid was? So again, when you use something like that, it makes me start trying to figure out things. And now my mind is thinking about things you may not want my mind thinking about.
Yeah.
And again, I know this sounds petty, but if it's a I'm just trying to show that the pillar of smoke is really, really, really black. If that's all I'm trying to show, I don't want my readers to go, and even if it's just some of them, maybe it's just me, but I don't want the chance of having some readers go, oh, wait, so is Earth a part of this? Are we close to Earth? What is Kindermaw then? Is this just a new, the name of this land on Earth? If the only payoff is to paint a picture of black, I'm not going to use that word
Yeah.
because there's too much baggage that comes with it, especially in sci-fi. Releasing your inner dragon. So I hear we have another victim on the chopping block for editing.
We
Is that true?
do. We do. We have a sci-fi victim for a
Ooh,
change. So
love it.
not fantasy. They actually mailed me and said, would we take sci-fi? I said, yes, we will. But bear in mind that we will not be commenting on any hard sci-fi elements. If you want feedback on the science involved here, neither of us are scientists. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. And me less so than you. But
So
I 100% just make everything up.
I will share my screen as I always do. And remember, if you are just listening to us, you can go right ahead and check out on YouTube where we actually do share the text involved. Okay. So
And
as I
while
always
you're
do, I will
there,
read. Yeah. Oh, you
and
want me to
while you're
put
there,
in?
give us a like and a subscribe and throw some comments in there and get engaged.
Yeah.
And I guess I should
100%.
add, if you're not doing anything at 9:30 a.m. on a Thursday, and that's Pacific Standard Time, if you join the Writers Room free area, one of the things you get is you can actually come and be a part of the Peanut Gallery, and you can make comments in the chat room as we are recording these things live. We are a month to 2 months ahead, depending on the way the wind blows. So you get to see these things way ahead of advance of their release, and it's all free. You just got to go to the Writers Room, writersroom.us, and join that. And then you can be a part of this. But do subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, please. We kind of need it.
Okay. So I have added line numbers because those are important, and it's off to the races. As I always do, I will read a paragraph and then we will talk about it. The glide ship swooped through pewter clouds, its light frame battered by howling winds. Circling lower, thermal brakes fired and the carrier settled into yellowing pasture land. Its sails retracted with a groan of worn gears. Her bay doors stretched open, disgorging a dozen Kanderma Unlimited field hands, each clad in respirators and radiation jackets, both necessary this near the impact site. I'm going to read the second paragraph and then we can talk about it because that's going to be important. Inside the ship, Faye Rayner loaded a second iron shell into her pistol. At just over 5 feet, she had dark curly hair and an athletic build. Her slender fingers traced the steel double barrel, unaccustomed to its touch after so long apart. Together again, she whispered. Seems like just yesterday. Okay, so I guess this is omniscient.
So the opening paragraph 100% is
Yeah,
omniscient. But that's it's not a big deal. I mean, so
yeah,
with that being omniscient and this being limited, if the rest of it's unlimited, then this
yeah,
author's writing in free indirect discourse where you have both. You have an omniscient narrator that you can use only visually. Notice there's no emotions, there's no opinions, there's no anything. It literally is just description, visual description. And I mean, you can do smells and taste and all that, but it's only sensory descriptions. And then we get inside of uh Faye, Faya, however you want to say that, her head. And so more than likely this is free indirect discourse based off of these first 3 paragraphs.
Yeah, which is fine. That is a very valid POV. There's nothing wrong with it. So I'm okay with the opening paragraph, but I like pewter clouds bothers me because as a reader of a sci-fi, I have a question here. Do you mean actual pewter clouds, like the element pewter is somehow liquid or gaseous or heated up enough to be a gas and hence form clouds? Or do you mean the color pewter, like a silver, tarnished silver color? Because with sci-fi or even with fantasy, it is possible to be either.
Yes.
So I think you do need to be a little bit more clear in the opening, whether you mean pewter or pewter color.
Here's the thing. Everything that we write is going to force the reader to think about something. Do you want the reader in this opening line thinking about which 2 of these is true? Are they actually made from pewter, clouds that are made from pewter, or are they the color of pewter? If that's what you want them thinking, then a lot of people are going to be thinking that, so you've succeeded. If you're like, no, I just wanted to paint a picture, I don't want you wondering, I want you paying attention to what I'm saying next and not thinking about that, then you might want to think about adjusting this because, again, it doesn't matter what you think. It's why I always say writers do not get to decide if they're successful. You must get other people to read it, and then whatever they say is how it is, because that's how it impacts them. You have all this extra knowledge that they don't have. You have all this extra love for the story that they don't have. And so you're biased. You have to rely on them to tell you how you did. And since all of us are hitting this spot, or at least me and Marie are hitting the spot going, yeah, I don't know. This is sci-fi. So it could be a world where they have metallic, actual elemental metallic clouds. That's interesting. But now I'm thinking about that and I'm not really paying attention to the ship as it's coming down, because it is kind of, I mean, that's the thing that I don't like about free and direct discourse. When you're starting in an omniscient paragraph and I'm not connected to any character, then I kind of skim them. I don't tend to read them because there's no internal emotion, there's no internal motivation, there's no internal connection to an actual entity that I'm going to be following. So me personally, I struggle with opening paragraphs or 2 that are in more of an omniscient kind of way. Not that it's bad, not that it's not correct to do, because this is 100% how free and direct discourse works. It allows you to set the scene without the character and then get into the character. It's just,
I would just like I do sometimes write in free and indirect. Like I am not averse to writing in free and indirect.
right.
But I would start with a character before hitting the ship's movement,
Yeah.
just
Well,
to kind of settle the reader.
But even here, we don't we could actually combine these. Frey Rainier slid left in her seat as the glide ship swooped through the pewter clouds, its light fame battered by howling winds.
Yeah.
Like, you can bring her in to the story and have all this description from her perspective.
Yeah.
Her stomach lurched as thermal brakes fired. Like, there's ways to do this exact same thing, but keep it in limited instead of in omniscient.
Yeah.
So and the reason why I don't write it ever is because I just always want to stay in my character. I always want to stay connected to my characters.
Yeah, 100%. But if you do want to write this paragraph in omniscient, this is fine. I would personally, before diving into the omniscient, I would do a little bit of character establishment up front, generally speaking. I like Faye's introduction though. I think that her relationship with her gun is definitely an interesting moment in terms of
Just
character.
remember, you can love your gun, just don't love your gun.
All right, so with a creeping eagerness that made her uncomfortable, Rainier slipped the respirator's faceplate over her nose. I don't get the sentence. She's slipping the faceplate over her nose.
It paints a weird picture with the word faceplate because you think faceplate is going to be big and cover her whole face.
Yeah, but what is a creeping eagerness? Why is she feeling a creeping eagerness that's making her uncomfortable? Like, I'm not following the emotions. Like, is she making herself uncomfortable? And why would
Yeah.
putting a respirator? Yeah, like the sentence confuses me.
Yeah.
It just confuses me.
It is a little bit, it could be definitely tightened up. If we're trying to show that she is feeling a creeping eagerness that's making her uncomfortable because of what she's about to do, then it's not connected to her putting her faceplate on.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what you want to do with
Yeah.
this.
I'm not even sure I can suggest a fix because I'm not sure what you're trying to communicate. So think about what you're trying to communicate and maybe just make that a little bit more clear. She breathed deep, nostrils filling with bitter air. Giving the green and purple radiation jacket a double check, she descended the ramp. Okay, so I like the world building so far. We've got bitter air, we've got a radiation jacket, immediate danger communicated. The flare pack on her belt ignited once outside the glide ship's landing lamps. That's an alliteration. Sporadic asphalt swirled through its radiance. Fog hugged the withered grassland, doing little to obscure the thousands of cattle laying in the pasture. Most were dead, their black tongues askew, their bodies swimming with flies, just as Rainier had expected. Okay, thoughts?
Just to go back to the glide ship's landing lamps, that definitely could be reworked to just make it a little. I mean, even if we just cut out glide ships, the flare pack on our belt ignited once outside the landing lamps. That's just going to read a little easier. And then the only other thing I had is 18 is very blasé, just as Rainier had expected. Very telly,
Very
no
telly.
emotion,
Yeah.
no connectivity. And that's the first one too. There's been a few sentences that we were both like, this could be reworked to make it a little smoother, but we haven't had anything, there's been no like, oh, this is very telly or this is this.
Yeah.
This is the first one that really makes me
So
go, oh.
yeah. So far so good, but this could stand to be reworked for sure.
Now, one thing we do not have yet. So, I preach 4 things in an opening scene. Whose head am I in? I'm in Rainier's. Where am I at? I'm on some weird alien planet. Why am I here? We don't have that yet.
So
And then,
I'm expecting it's going to be tied to the cattle, but I don't know.
well, and the fourth is a hook that makes me want to continue reading, and that to me is a good enough hook to keep me reading. Oh wow, because I wasn't expecting. I mean, we're on an alien planet, so I was expecting when there was a herd of cattle, it was just going to be alien cattle. I wasn't expecting most to be dead. So that's a pretty interesting thing that's going to make me want to. But I have no idea why I'm here.
Yeah.
And so, that needs to happen as quickly as possible. As long as it happens here soon, it can be as quickly as possible. But there also might be opportunities because I don't know the story, but there may be opportunities to get that in even the first or second paragraph of why is Rainier here? Why did the writer feel it was important for me, the reader, to peer into Rainier's life at this moment?
Yes.
And that is, the motivation.
And as we spoke about in the character backstory episode, what is Rainier's motivation? Which might be different. I would like to know that soon as well.
Well, I mean, that's That's pretty much what I'm talking about when I say, why am I
Yeah.
here? What's her
Yeah.
motivation in this moment of her life?
Yeah. Well, her motivation and the plot motivation might not be quite the same, but yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I
Um,
didn't even say the plot motivation.
yeah.
Like, I don't care about the
She's
plot motivation yet.
She strode through the carnage, grip tightening on the holstered pistol. The ashfall grew thicker. In time, she came upon a live one, a steer's eye dull from suffering, its mouth frothing spittle. The animal wheezed, its skeletal ribs straining, and tried to lift its head. So I'm just going to stop here briefly. I do not like the in time. It feels like a stage direction.
Yeah.
I would
It
rather have
also,
her check, 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 oh, a live one or
right.
something.
It also, when you do stuff like that, it means that we're not in the moment.
Yeah.
It means that we're reading a story. So little phrases like this, little turns of phrases, remind the reader that there's a narrator telling you a story, and you're not just walking through this alien landscape with this character.
Yeah.
And so I try to avoid little turns of phrases like that.
Rainier cooed assurances and raised her firearm, the comforting weight like like shaking hands with an old friend. Trust me, it's better than the alternative. She stepped forward and fired. Ruby energy erupted from the bi-barrel, the crackling bolt exploding the steer's head. A smoking iron shell ejected from the pistol and landed at her feet. At least it's over, she told the headless carcass. Not everyone's this lucky. Despite her glibness, Rainier remained fixated on her grim handiwork. Disgust bubbled inside her. After the Metalhead Wars ended, she'd sworn her days of killing were over. Yet like a filthy habit she couldn't quit. Here she stood, smoking firearm in hand. A grimace twisted Rainier's lips and the pistol sagged. Okay, so I want to stop briefly here and say, I actually don't, I'm not super fond of this construct of a grimace twisted her lips. And I understand why you do it. It's so that you don't start every sentence with Rainier grimaced or Rainier twisted her lips, etc. So sometimes you want to flip that and you want to, so that you invert the sentences and your sentence construction changes. But it can feel excessive. So you need to just be wary of not overdoing it, which I'm not saying this author is doing, but I'm wary of it because I overdid it at one point when I was writing.
Mm-hmm.
So just wanted to make that note. Ostensibly, Condermar had sent field hands to catalogue salvageable livestock for evacuation. This close to the impact site, though, there was little chance of that. But the thought of these creatures choking on sulfuric air had kept Rainier awake. When word came of this assignment, she'd volunteered, out of pity and for a distraction from her other troubles. With weary eyes, she squinted through the respirator's faceplate. The asteroid's final resting spot glowered a furious ochre on the horizon, like a sunrise that would never come. From this false dawn rose a towering pillar of smoke, blacker than squid ink, guts riven with lightning spreading across the sky and rendering the midday sun an occluded smudge. It looked like the end of the world, because it was.
So that's a great
Candor,
hook line.
yeah,
A
that
couple
is a
things.
great line.
Couple things.
Yeah.
And it's great that you're breaking it out into its own standalone paragraphs, because when you do that, those things have such impact on the reader because of the fact that, like, reader, you can't not look at this. I'm going to give you 3 words in a sentence, and it's a whole paragraph by itself. But a couple things. So 32 to 34 is the first time we get the first hint of a why. Why am I
Yeah.
here? And I don't see a story-based reason to hold this from the reader. I just don't. It
No.
seems like there's no gut punch to this. So, like, who cares that you're hiding this from me? So this is one of those that I would recommend. This could literally be, she could see the smoke from this asteroid as they're coming in and give us the why we're here, literally in the opening of this scene. The only time I'm going to hide something like a character's motivation or anything like that is if because the scene needs it to punch the reader in the face. Then I'm going to hide it because there's going to be a payoff. But if it's just now, there could be a payoff later, and I don't know the story. But as of right now, 2 pages in, and I'm just getting the motivation and the why we're here, and I don't think there's going to be a payoff to this. I could be wrong. Then I would recommend, or at least challenge the writer to think about, could this be worked into the opening paragraph or two? And then the reader's grounded with okay, yeah, we're here. Oh, okay, there's an asteroid and it's killed a bunch of cattle, and I feel bad about that. I'm here. I volunteered for this because, man, no, not even an animal should die this way.
Yeah.
Besides, if I worry about the animals, I won't think about my own bullcrap life. Like,
I agree. I think that this motivation, if it came earlier, would get the reader through the glide ship landing and so on
yeah,
more smoothly. Yeah.
yeah,
This, however, is a beautiful line. It,
yeah.
it is 10 out of
And if
10, no notes.
well, the only note is that would be something that I would probably do before we land. Like when I'm looking out the porthole at this asteroid and the landscape, desolate landscape, and destroyed from this whatever up there, saying it looked like the end of the world because it
Mm,
was like that. Because you're right, that is a fantastic hook. So we would
mm,
get whose head are we in right there. Where are we at right there? Why are we here right there? What is the hook right there? I mean, all of that could be done in the opening 3 to 4 paragraphs
yeah.
just using what is already in this story, not even
Yeah.
having to make anything up. So, and it's just a little rejiggering
Just a
of
little
where
or
things are.
reorganization.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all it is.
Kanderma's leading enviro engineers theorized it would be decades, if not centuries, before the planet could be cultivated again. And with nothing left to farm, Kanderma would need field hands on Manlia, meaning Rainier and her thousands of co-workers were about to be shit out of work. But everything's fine, Rainier thought as she hiked through the emaciated pasture. I
All right,
like
wait,
that.
before we go on.
Yeah.
And again, all of that is motivation. So that's all
Yeah.
great. There's one other thing that I forgot to make a note and I just did. But if you go up with just a little bit. So we're
Mm-hmm.
on Kindermaw. We're also in a sci-fi. So when things like Blacker Than Squid Ink up on 37,
Yeah.
that makes me go, well, wait a minute now. What time period are we in? How far in the future? How long has it been since we've been on Earth? Would they really know what a squid was? So again, when you use something like that, it makes me start trying to figure out things. And now my mind is thinking about things you may not want my mind thinking about.
Yeah.
And again, I know this sounds petty, but if it's I'm just trying to show that the pillar of smoke is really, really, really black. If that's all I'm trying to show, I don't want my readers to go, and even if it's just some of them, maybe it's just me, but I don't want the chance of having some readers go, oh, wait, so is Earth a part of this? Are we close to Earth? What is Kindermaw then? Is this just a new, the name of this land on Earth? So I don't think so with the next paragraph. I think it is a planet, but
Mm.
if the only payoff is to paint a picture of black, I'm not going to use that word
Yeah.
because there's too much baggage that comes with it, especially in sci-fi. So I know that's really petty, but I mean, for the author, when we start really picking on really petty stuff, that's a pretty good sign
Yeah.
that your
Yeah. So
sentences
so
are
far,
good.
great work.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Like when you force me to go down to you use squid ink to paint a color and you could be like, then you're doing really well.
yeah, then you're doing great stuff. Then we're being petty and picky as heck. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But that's a really good sign.
Yeah. Um, I really like this little personal they were about to be shit out of work. That
Yeah,
that right there is very relatable.
yeah. And that's something that I would like. All of that is not going to hurt if that was a part of the opening page.
Yeah. Although you could leave this here as well, like it could be after she lands and she starts and she shoots the cattle and so on. She could be thinking about, because you can spread the motivation out.
Yes,
You don't have to
100%.
preload all the motivation.
Yeah, no, I'm
I
just
think.
saying, I wasn't
Yeah.
saying move it. I was
Yeah.
saying, but there's another thing that could be something that
Mm.
absolutely could be said in the beginning that would give the motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the author likes to do internal monologue, like right there in the text, which is fine. It is a valid way to do it. But everything's fine, Rainier thought as she hiked through the emaciated pasture. We came
Now,
to Manly Poor, she
technically,
hummed, stepping over the bodies of
sorry,
uh,
technically that's not really inner monologue. It's still narration. So the way she did it,
yeah, yeah.
we're just
The
telling the reader that she thought this thing.
yeah, yeah, sure. But it
Yeah.
is, I mean, it is the equivalent of like inner
Right.
monologue.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly. I'm just saying that's perfectly fine. It doesn't need to be
yeah,
italicized,
yeah.
because it is still narration.
Yeah, it is the communication of the character's internal thoughts.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, no problem. We came to Manly Poor, she hummed, stepping over the bodies of fallen animals, swirling ash thickening into plump flakes. And we're not leaving till we're rich. I like that. That's cute.
Yeah.
So it's clearly like a song that,
Mm-hmm.
goes with it. Like great element of world building. I'm honestly, this has been great.
Yeah.
No, I'm not blowing smoke. This has really been great. I would read on.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
Then it seems like we are moving into a chapter 2, because chapter 1 apparently wasn't quite 1,000 words. And it looks like, yeah, it's POV shift. 80 miles to the south at Kumero City's 3 district service garage, Anders Sarat strapped a detonator charge to the wheel rider's steering column. He hustled across the sandstone-tiled courtyard and leapt behind the granite demolition barrier. Turning to his partner, Bohai, he should have given the signal, but instead he hesitated. Seeing this, the old man nodded in understanding. He pressed the handheld trigger. Okay, I'm not so keen on this. I'll say why when I finish the paragraph. The two-seater wheel-shaped personnel transport exploded, as did 6 others lined up behind it. Okay. So the introduction of the character is fine. Again, free and indirect discourse. This is fine for scene setting. There's nothing wrong with it. And Anders Sarat, that's fine. We know who the character is. We understand who we're following. We understand what he's doing, although not why.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not crazy about, but instead he hesitated. And I'm really not crazy about seeing this, the old man nodded in understanding, because it feels 100% like a head on. And not a little head on, like a giant head on.
Also, I don't understand it. So now I'm thinking about things that you may not want me thinking about.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't answer the question of why the person I'm inside hesitated.
Yeah. Bohai, with his paunchy belly and comb over hair, crossed the barrier and extended his hand. I get it, he said. His voice came out metallic through the respirator. This sucks.
Let
Okay,
me
so
let me expand upon what I said, because I don't think I gave enough information about that. What I meant by that is, if we go up just to
yeah.
53.
Let me just put a note here and say you don't need the speech tag.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not that important. I just want the author to know they don't need the speech tag.
Yeah, no, that cutting that speech bag literally does nothing, because adding it does nothing.
Yeah.
So turning to his partner behind, he should have given the signal, but instead he hesitated. What I mean by that, just to expand upon that, is this is a missed opportunity to give me the emotion of, like, when we get that this sucks, I would like to feel him feeling that. He should have given the signal, but his stomach churned over what they were doing or whatever.
Here on line 58, we get his broad shoulders slumping. Those raiders would have run another 100,000 miles, destroying them. Like, that is the motivation that we needed over here.
Yeah.
Not seeing this, the old man nodded in understanding. We needed this over here.
Again, anytime you withhold something from a reader, there needs to be a payoff of it.
Yeah.
And withholding why he is distressed by what he's doing for a couple of paragraphs and then getting it with no payoff because of the withholding, then there's no reason to do it. Just give it to them when it matters. Like I said, unless there's a gut punch, unless there's something that is even cooler because I didn't give it to you
Mm.
here, but gave it to you there instead, and look at how much more amazing it impacted you, then yes, withhold it. But you do those very rarely. Very rarely does that have an impact. And so that's I just after thinking about what I said, I was like, wow, you didn't really explain yourself. That's what I mean by this.
Yeah.
So this could be just given what he's feeling. And, even not that you don't even have to mention Raiders. I'm not talking about that. Just the fact that he has a distaste of what he's doing. He doesn't like himself for what he's doing or whatever it is. I'm right. I'm taking liberties with your story here, but whatever it is that he is feeling, that's going to connect me to him. That's going to connect me to this moment. And then when you write, seeing this, the old man nodded, in
Mm.
understanding or whatever. And you're what I would do is just cut in understanding, and just say, seeing this, the old man nodded before
Yeah.
pressing the handhold trigger or whatever. I mean, you can make that a little bit tighter, but now we know that I'm doing this thing. I don't want to do this thing. I should have said, you're good to go. I didn't, because my insides are just like in knots because this is bull crap or whatever. And then my partner's like, and he nods to me and he pushes the button anyway. And the stuff happens anyway. And then you don't even have to say anything. Like, you can literally still have I get it. This
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
Because that's
You
him
can have
showing
this whole
compassion.
conversation, but
Yeah.
instead of seeing this, the old man nodded and understanding, like give us the emotion up here, then have the old man nod, then press the handheld trigger. I just want to say one other thing. I think the pronouns are wrong up here on line 52. Just on a technical point, turning to his partner
Yeah,
Bohai, he should have given the signal. I think that he might be pointing at Bohai, but I'm not 100% sure of
it
that.
is.
Okay. So yeah, your pronouns are getting a little freaky.
Well,
Um,
it's pointing back. It's not pointing back to Baha'i. It's pointing back to his partner, which is Baha'i, but still,
yeah,
um,
yeah. So
because his is not. He didn't turn to his partner.
yes,
He turned to his partner. So the noun is his partner, which means the pronoun points back to his partner, which we now
mm,
know is named Baha'i.
yeah. So that he
And then
is
also
the
the next
is
one
the
too. But instead,
yeah,
Baha'i hesitate.
yeah. I don't know that readers would per se get confused, so you
No.
might not need to fix it because I think most readers would read it okay. But
Yeah.
from a strictly grammatical point
Yes.
of view, I think it's incorrect.
No. It's from a no. It's not even think. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
But you are also correct that very few readers are going to miss that.
Get confused. So you don't have to change it per se. I mean, we don't have to be grammatically perfect. Um, the old man shrugged. Employees do as bosses say. Yeah. Inhaling sharply at this hollow afro afro ap,
Where are we? What line? I had to do something on my
61.
phone. Huh?
Inhaling sharply at this hollow
Which
afro,
line?
line 61.
Oh, okay, all the way down here. Afroism?
Afroism, thank you. That is not how I would pronounce that word. um, Inhaling sharply at this hollow aphorism, Sarat grasped the offered hand and stood. Melting rubber dripped from the rider's 9-foot rims. Acrid smoke billowed off the ruined vehicles, miasmic entrails swirling through the brittle ivory covering the garage's facade. It drifted past the wooden squome roof and its tangled topoglass roses, rising to the malignant cumulonimbi, rolling above the city. I think that just means clouds. As he watched the transports burn, Sarat thought about how beautiful Monlia had once been, her endless summers, her Cecilite skies, Vivid green sprouting in every direction. Humid air, lush with pollen and life. Okay.
I only have one note.
This is a $10 word.
Yeah.
So, which I don't think you need. What's your note?
I really hate on 63 that they use the word entrails because I don't think people were inside of these things, but now that makes me think, wait a minute, were there people inside of these things they just blew up?
Mm,
Because they're not mentioned anywhere.
yeah.
And so it's giving me a little bit of a disconnect, or not a disconnect, but a little bit of confusion. It's like, okay, they're just blowing up transports. Oh wait, because now there's entrails, and I
Yeah.
get we got a mesemic entrails, and so I get it's just
This
too
this
fancy of a way to say what I think that the author's trying to say.
this whole paragraph and the one below it feels very purple prose.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little too purple for me.
Yeah, feels like
Like,
the
and it
author,
doesn't
and
seem to fit the flavor of the rest of this, you
right,
know.
yeah, there's no $10 words anywhere else.
Yeah. Because like purple prose is not inherently bad per se, right? And I think people are way too sensitive about purple prose these days, and they're way too like, oh, you must just write, whatever, like this grade or that grade or whatever. Like a couple of $10 words never hurt anybody.
Nope.
But it should fit the style.
Mm-hmm.
And this does not fit the style for me, at least. This
Yeah, no, it
felt
feels like it's a different writer.
this felt forced.
Mm-hmm.
This felt forced. And I don't know if that's the POV shift, like if the writer's just way more comfortable in Rainier's POV, and Sarat is maybe not comfortable in his own skin as a character, and so he thinks weirdly, maybe. And maybe it's a device, I don't know, but it does feel this chapter feels a lot more forced
Really, it's
than the
just these two
Rainier.
paragraphs.
Yeah.
Rest above didn't do that to me.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, I'm also not crazy about like this section.
It's a filter.
It's filtery. It's very, very filtery. And it's the first time we've had a big filter. So um I would perhaps encourage to cut the filter.
And just to define that, so we have he watched, which means we're looking at him as he's looking at something cool, but we've already set him up as the POV. So everything that's seen, smelt, felt, dealt is all, him. Like he's the POV. So we don't need to say that the POV is watching something because anything that's watched has to be watched by the POV. So I'd rather have the burning transports be the cool thing that I'm looking at. Now I get that it's an introductory clause, so it's not. That's why it's not the subject. The subject is still Sarat and thought, but that's a second filter because now I'm looking at Sarat as he's thinking about something cool. So in the
Yeah.
first one, it's not a sentence, but it's still filtery. So it's he's watching. I'm looking at him watching, and now I'm looking at him thinking. And so that's what we're talking about here. When those could be reworked to make the subject how beautiful, how what manlay. The subject of a sentence could be manlay, and then its beauty and everything like that.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about filtering and why it would be stronger to flip that around and cut out the filtering.
Yeah. He shook his head, his lips tight, his fists balled. Wow, that is a lot of pronouns. You can probably cut that one and that one. And just be like, he shook his head, lips tight, fists balled.
I would put an and in I would make it an Oxford or use the Oxford comma and then go to an and.
Lips tight, and like that.
Yeah, and fits
Yeah,
all.
maybe.
So no, there would be no comma. Sorry, there'd be no comma there.
Yeah. But yeah, the pronouns are a little bit excessive there.
Mm-hmm.
Tan-skinned with grey prematurely creeping into his ponytail, Sarat had a wide frame, thick, not with muscle or fat, but with a solidness like a tree trunk. His body bore the scars of 9 years working for Kandermore Unlimited, When he sat too fast, his knee buckled and his back barked even on the good days. His craggy knuckles swelled when it rained, so bad he could barely tie his own shoelaces. This is the way it always goes, Surratt said, bitterness unmistakable even through the respirator. Executives long gone, evacuated at the first sign of trouble. Us grunts left mucking through their mess. Well, good news then. The old man turned from the flaming vehicles and gestured at the rows of wheel riders, SW drones, and skyquads awaiting destruction. Only a few hundred more to go. So this description you could only really do in free and indirect, but I do like it as a description. This is free and indirect used well.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of description, like it gives the kind of
And she's talking about 69 to 73 for
yeah,
those
I'm
that are
talking about
watching on YouTube.
69 to 73. This kind of description of the character
Mm-hmm.
is it's a free and indirect description, but it's a description that gives you the character's personality, their past, their history, all just in the description. Like they work with their hands, they're a laborer, that they've worked hard, their body's been through stuff. Like it's all there in that. So it's well
But
done, well used.
but this is a great opportunity to talk about the difference between free internet discourse and true limited. And
Yeah.
so most people are trying to write in true limited. And I actually will bet that if you talk to this author, they're not going to even know the term free indirect discourse. And they're just going to think they're writing in limited because that's the way they're taught that this is limited and it's not. So the big difference is this is obviously a third-party narrator giving information to the reader about Surratt. Now, it's fine. It's the way books have been written for, 100 years. But if you are wanting to write in true limited, if you're actually wanting to write in a very visceral, very immersive way, then this is info dumping and it's telly. And so the difference between, being a little bit more omniscient in your prose is that you're going to tend to fall into these little telly moments. There's nothing wrong with this one. It's good. Both me and Marie like it. So we're not saying, oh, this is a great example of a bad thing to do. I'm just trying to point out the difference between.
So if you were doing this in limited, you would do something like he's stretched, the scars on his body tearing, his bad back barking
Right.
from the strain. Like you would make it intimate to the character
Right.
instead of describing it externally.
Right.
Right. But from a free and indirect discourse, and I'm going to assume that the author does know what they're doing in this, is because it feels like on purpose free and indirect. It doesn't feel like on accident. So if it's free and indirect discourse, this is free and indirect done well because it communicates more than just the description. It also gives you the history of the character without giving you the history of the character, which is good.
So you say that. But at my monthly critique pod for the free members of the writers room, and by the way, if you want to get a chance to work with me and Marie on a weekly basis, I recommend that you head on over to writersroom.us and you can join it for free. And so my free monthly critique pod that I do, there was this girl that brought a thing, and it was I started off with a compliment, which I don't do a lot, and I'm sorry, I'm not a compliment heavy kind of person, but I was like, man, I love, because she was writing a middle grade book, and so it's 8 to 12-year-olds is what you're shooting for. And it was written in Omniscient. And one of the things that I love about Omniscient, most of the things I hate about Omniscient, but one of the things that I love about Omniscient is it's the only version of third person that can have a narrative voice. And so she had this really awesome narrative voice that was telling this story about these characters in a story, but the narrator is obviously not one of them. So it's omniscient, completely omniscient. She had a really fantastic voice for this narrator. And so I started off with that. I was like, man, I really love that you chose to do this in omniscient. I like the voice. I think it's great. I think you could lean into it a little bit more. And she went, oh, what's omniscient? I've never heard that term.
Well, you don't need to know the term to do it well, and this is
Right.
that well.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You say that she knows that she's doing it, but it's amazing how many people just accidentally, because we all read, and so we're all emulating. So if you're
And we
emulating someone who did
imitate,
it right, then that's fine. But if the
Yep.
writer's going, no, 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 I want this to be very visceral. I want you to feel like you and Surratt, you're a part of the story with Surratt. Well, then this paragraph is omniscient,
Yep.
and it's not going to do that. You're writing in a much more omniscient way than limited. You're writing in free and direct discourse, which is going to have these little telly moments. So that's why I wanted to bring that up, because most people just don't know this stuff. They've never heard this stuff.
Yeah. I will say that I'm liking the dialogue so far. It communicates a lot, feels
Mm-hmm.
very natural.
Mm-hmm.
Bohai, along with Sarat, wore standard Kandarmu Unlimited uniforms, green jumpsuits with purple piping, their names and work assignments on the breast. Under Sarat, shop supervisor. Marcus Bohai, journeyman mechanic. Their uniforms were filthy, neither of them nor their owners having been washed in days. Only the respirators saved them from the unfortunate stench. The only difference in their attire was the "I am a now" Union pin Sarat wore near his collar, a pin noticeably cleaner than the rest of him.
So again, very
Yeah.
narrator, very omniscient.
Yeah.
Um,
And this one didn't feel as engaging to me. Like the one above felt more engaging with like the description of Sarat. This was just information.
mm-hmm,
The only interesting part here was the union. The
mm-hmm.
union. The one is a union member, the other one isn't. So I would recommend reworking even if you are in and free and indirect. The old man summoned a pair of drones to extinguish the riders. When's your off-world? 1800, day after next, Sarat said, still vibrating with anger. Oh no. No, I dispute it. We have had 2 pages since the anger.
Yeah,
I am not feeling anger anymore. I've had a lot of time to not feel angry.
agreed.
30 million people already evacuated off the Stam Rock. What's to say we're in the last 10% getting out? Bahai snorted with self-deprecation. We must be real important. Yeah, that'd be nice. Sarat checked the time, dread squeezing his guts as he realized he needed to be leaving. There's something a little clumsy about this. He realized he needed to be leaving, dread squeezing his guts as he saw the time, as something. Um, Not crazy about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of like he realized he needed to be leaving. I mean, that's a lot of verb combo going
Yeah,
on there. The old man retreated to his workbench, following him, ignoring the fact that he should be gone already. Now that one did confuse me. The old man
yeah,
retreated to his workbench, following him. So Sarat is following him, that's fine. Ignoring the fact that he should be gone already, that he is
which
pointing at the
means
wrong
the old
person.
man.
Yeah.
But also, there's an incongruity between these two sentences back to back.
Yes.
I need to be leaving. Actually, I should have left already.
Yes.
And they're
So
back to
that
back.
that there's this is there's some time and pronoun confusion going on here.
So, and this is another example of like the difference between keeping and limited. So the old man retreated to his workbench, period. Following him, Surratt ignored the fact that he should already be gone.
Mm.
You know, now we're not telling you that he's doing this, he's just doing it. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the subtle difference between staying in true limited versus not.
Yeah. It's shameful what Condormore is doing. Whether their sensors missed the 40-mile wide asteroid on purpose or not, I'll leave to others. Fact is, it happened on their watch. Finished with extinguishing the riders, the drones dragged their warped remains aside and lined up another round for incineration. Bohai primed more detonator charges, and Sarat went on. Yet not a
Okay.
single.
I was going to say, all right. So this writer now wins. I don't care anything else I said before. This writer wins. I hate the word dragged. I like the word drug, but that is the one word that I get popped on by everyone. It's like the entire world hates the word drug when you're talking about dragging something. They always just go, it's a drug, like they took a pill. No, drug also means it's the British one of the people in the.
It's not British
in the-
actually. I looked this up. It's a southern spelling of it. But it is 100% legitimate. It's in the dictionary. There's nothing wrong with it.
and
Um,
I hate
but
the
it's not
word
British.
dragged. I just hate it. Sounds weird to my ear. So all other comments gone. You win. You use drug. You and me. You and me. We're the only
That's
two.
because
We're
you grew
drugging.
up Southern boy.
I did grow up a Southern boy, but yes, and I won't change. Like it's the one thing. Like I'm so cognizant of never, popping readers out or doing anything. But I'm just like, yeah, you can take my drug when you pry it from my cold dead hands.
You can take the boy out of the Southern, but you can't take the drug out of the boy.
That's right. Leave me and my drug alone. I don't have a problem. You have a problem.
Uh, but
So
it
thank
is
you.
actually legit. I looked into it, but and that's one of the reasons, by the way, why you will never see either dragged or drug in Magic Fall, because because
Right,
I
because both of us
can't
are like,
do
we can't do it.
drug. I can't do drug. He can't do dragged. So whenever that comes up, we use a synonym.
Yeah, they pulled him across the floor, whatever.
Whatever.
That is actually true. We actually had that conversation.
We
'Cause-
write it out. We just avoid that word entirely.
And in the world's defense, everyone in the peanut gallery went through and went like, yeah, no, dragged, 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 dragged. I'm like, I don't care. I like drug. He drugged the body across the floor.
So
Just
for
I like,
everybody who says it's not legit, it really, really
oh, it
is. I
is.
really did look it up. But it is part of a southern one of the southern spellings.
And
Anyway,
I'm not getting rid of it. It's the
it's fine.
one thing I get popped on over and over and over again. And I don't care. It's the only thing I won't change.
Yep. Um finished with extinguishing the riders, the drones, we did that. That was drug. Okay.
Yeah, the drone's
Yeah.
drug. No, you can read it again. It's that good. The drone's drug the warped remains aside and lined up for another round of incineration. It's just a beautiful
Um
line. Beautiful.
Behind more detonated charges, and Sarat went on. Yet not a single executive's been fired. Ain't that always the way, bud? All those high-level eggheads in suits, they're still cashing checks far away in some plush corporate housing on Denzel. It's us, the workers, stuck here on Mondlia, taking it in the teeth. And everyone knows there's no jobs waiting for us off-world. You've seen the reports. You've heard from folks already gone. It's bad out there. Sarat checked the time again, amazed to find 8 minutes had passed. His anger at their corporate masters melted into cool fear. Icy tendrils curdled his stomach. He needed to be going. He couldn't delay any longer. Okay. So the last paragraph does not quite work for me because it's such a cut over from the rant. I approve of the rant. I am with you on the rant. I am
Okay. And I know it's because you're disdain for all things in power, and I get that. But this is the first piece of dialogue that, in my opinion, sucks.
okay.
And it's not what said. I'm fine with what said.
Yeah.
It's all as you know, Bob dialogue. All of it. Like literally, as you know.
Sure, but it's biting the bear. Like I would have a conversation like this
But
with
there's a way
somebody
to
who
do that. But
agrees
there's a
with.
way to do that without it being as you know. I mean, she or he, I don't even know if it's a male or female, but 101, as everyone knows, like you literally even said it in there. So this is the first piece of dialogue that did not feel organic to me. It felt like prose. And that's the problem with as you know dialogue. It feels like prose instead of conversation.
So yeah, I hear you. I do, but okay, so as everyone knows, I would cut. But I would probably put in a line of like Sarat knew that Bohai knew, but he couldn't stop the words. He couldn't stop because like I have had conversations where I feel so passionately about something that I know the person knows what I know they know. Like I know they know, but I'm still saying it because I can't stop myself, you know.
So I hear you.
Mm,
However, and I'm going to take liberties and I'm going to take over
mm,
the story because just to show an example, not to write this for the person, but if the POV instead was, if we got the motivation of I'm getting off this rock because I'm going to find a better job and I'm not going to do this crap job anymore, screw you. And he's like, there ain't no job waiting for you off world. There ain't no job waiting for any of us. Like, then yes, that is also, as you know, but that is more organic. People say that stuff. You know what I
yeah.
mean? I'm just saying there are other ways to do this than to info dump, because this is an info dumpy dialogue. And this is the
Mm,
first one this author's done. The dialogue has actually been really, really good through here.
yeah.
Even the dialogue with the chick by herself and talking to herself and to the cows and stuff like that. That was actually really good too. This is the first piece of dialogue that I hit that I just, it didn't work for me. And again, all this
Mm,
stuff is subjective. I hate that we have to say this in every one of them, but for some reason we do get the occasional comments that are like, oh, you guys think you know every, no, we don't know anything. These are
yeah.
suggestions and comments and the ways we look at things. And we're not telling you this is the way to do it. We're telling you this is the way we think about it. And you can agree, disagree. You can find something in the middle. Like, that's how we grow as writers, is we listen to other writers talk about how they feel about certain things. And then we make our own decisions and our own opinions based off of what they said, not that they're saying things that are factually gold that must be followed.
Yeah. A peanut gallery suggested it's not like there's any jobs. And another suggestion is not like there's any jobs waiting for us off world, all of
Right.
which would remove the very um
Yeah.
direct.
And that's much more organic.
Yeah. But I'm not crazy about the transition from the
Yeah.
dialogue to this.
Well,
It
not
feels
only
like
that,
too much too fast.
not well, it's not only that, because I do agree with you with that, but it's also too quickly of a transition of
Yeah.
emotions. We
Yeah.
go from angry to now literally ice forming in our veins because we're late. Like, it seems
Mm,
like then it should have worried you a little bit more when you noticed
yeah.
that it was there. Because it's not like you didn't notice it. It's not like this is the first time and it's like, oh my God, I am 15 minutes late. My wife is going to kill me.
Yeah.
Like, it's not coming out of the blue. We know that he is thinking about getting out and he's running late and all this stuff. And so to go from, I mean, it just felt to me like going from 0 to 100 on a
Yeah.
dime.
It did feel very, very 0 to 100, very 0 to hero. So I
Mm-hmm.
will say that I feel like the Surratt POV is weaker than the Rhaenyra POV. It's not weak, it's not terrible, it's just weaker than the Rhaenyra POV. I feel like the Rhaenyra POV is pretty strong.
Yeah, for the most part, what this just needs is editing. It doesn't.
Yeah.
This writer is a solid writer. They move through the scene in a very logical way that keeps the reader grounded. Their paragraph structure, sentence structure, their grammar. There's a couple typos and blah blah
Yeah.
blah, but whatever. Um, like, really, really, really good job on this
Yeah.
piece.
I also like I like the world building that's integrated with the
Mm-hmm.
piece. I like the fact that there's no huge info dumps, there's no history, no whatever. We're in the moment. We understand enough of what's going on from the dialogue and the actions of the character. All of that's great.
The
Great.
only thing that I think both of us feel is you can, on both of them, you can get their motivations in
Yeah.
faster. And I think that would only increase the strength of this piece.
Character motivations earlier, and I think you've got yourself a really solid and some editing to tighten up the dialogue and whatnot.
Yeah.
Got yourself a good solid story start here.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the better
Good
pieces that
job.
have been submitted to us. So that's really, really
Yeah.
good work. Whoever sent that. Oh, and then there was that one of the peanut gallery did say, "What? Don't forget about those purple prose 2 paragraphs in the middle." Like, yeah, no, I did
Yeah,
forget
yeah.
about those. I
Yeah.
did forget about those.
It's some editing problems here and there.
Right. Right. But
Yeah.
but but now that we've gone through the whole thing and going back to that, just to kind of put a pin in it, look at how different those 2 paragraphs are from basically everything before them and everything after them. Like, they feel like like you said, they feel forced, they feel shoved in, like
Mm.
somebody else wrote them and stuffed them into this.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. Is it does feel forced. So you might want to just go and take a look at that and whatever.
Although the person who pointed out was like, no, I was pointing out that I really like that. So, and she's not wrong. That's the thing.
Yep.
This is all subjective. So
Yeah.
she's 100% right. It 100% works for her.
Yeah.
And we're 100%
Yep.
right. It 100% didn't work for us. Like,
Yeah.
and
The
it's just
question,
two ways of looking at something.
yeah, the question really is like, if you subject it to 10 beta readers, do 8 of them like it? If 8 of them like it, you are golden. Sign off, put it to bed.
If
If
7 of them like it, then you need to tweak it. You
yeah,
you
then you need
failed.
to tweak.
Unless
If
you're comfortable with 3.5 out of 5 stars.
yeah, if 2 of them like it, you really need to change it. you got
Again,
issues and you got to fix that stuff.
unless you like 1 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
If that's your goal, then make sure that you upset 8 out of 10 of your beta readers.
Yeah, exactly.
And then publish that puppy and revel in your 1-star reviews.
Exactly. Alrighty. And I think that is a good note on which to end this episode, and we will see you soon for another one.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. This is Marie Mullaney, your co-host on this literary adventure. Our goal is to provide you with valuable insights and discussions on writing. If you believe in our mission, please like and subscribe our podcast. Sharing our episodes with your community not only helps us grow, but also contributes to a richer, more diverse conversation about storytelling. We appreciate your support. For a deeper understanding of the topics we've discussed, head over to Just in Time Worlds on YouTube. It is a treasure trove where fantasy meets history and science. Every Tuesday, you'll find new videos that delve into the intricacies of world building, drawing from our rich real-world history. Whether you're a writer, a role player, or just a fantasy enthusiast, Just in Time Worlds offers unique insights that will enrich your perspective. Check it out and join the journey of crafting incredible worlds.
If you are ready to take your writing to the next level and work with a group of highly motivated, dedicated writers who are all working to not only improve their writing, but improve your writing, plus you get to work with me on a weekly basis, then I'll encourage you to check out writersroom.us. This is a website that I have created that I really wish I had 30 years ago. It's everything a writer needs to become a better writer. Not only do we do weekly critique sessions, both from other members as well as me, we have daily writing sessions, I do monthly classes, Q&As, we have activities, I do all sorts of learning exercises, such as I do a quarterly writing prompt contest, and just tons and tons and tons of things. So if you're ready to get serious about your writing and you want to actually finish that novel and have a chance of it being published, then I encourage you to head on over to the Writer's Room and join me there. And as a special promotion for listeners of Releasing Your Inner Dragon, I'll go one step more. If you would like to get 50% off for 3 months, reach out to me. There's a million ways you can do that. You can do it through starvingwriterstudio.com, drakeu.com, any of my social medias such as LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, whatever. Reach out to me, say that you would like to check out the Writer's Room for 50% off, and I will send you a link that will allow you to do just that. So hopefully you're ready to start getting serious about writing, and I'll see you in the Writer's Room.